What would a modern Azeroth look like today after it's been revamped? That's the question a lot of people are asking, and the question we're going to talk about today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crendor Talks in front of a shitty green screen. Now, I already made a video called Is Azeroth Getting Revamped? And I do think it is, as well as many other people that you've probably seen on YouTube. So, spoiler for that video, I do think it is. But I want to talk about how it's going to get revamped and how I think it'll get revamped and what I'd like to see in a revamp, right? And so some of it's the realistic ways I think it'll get revamped, and some of it's kind of what I hope is there after it's been revamped. So let's jump right into it. But first, I want to give a shout out to the channel sponsor, Zygor. Zygor's got retail WoW, classic WoW guides, gold farming guides, pet guides, mount guides. They got it all. I've been using them to level in classic hardcore as well. If you want to check it out for free, use my link in the description. And if you enjoy it and want to upgrade to an elite subscription, you can use code Crendor for 20% off. So the first thing I would love to see is the completion of the Booty Bay construction, because they have been working on Booty Bay for 13 years at this point. It's actually gone on longer than like numerous real life construction projects, which is impressive because those last quite some time. But like, if you go there, the goblins are just still working on it. It's like, you got to go up and be like, dude, it's been over a decade. Like, what are you doing? Who's paying you now? It's crazy. And so I would actually love to just see the finished product. Like, if they're working on it for this long, it's got to be good, right? I don't know what they're gonna have there. Obviously, there'll still be a bunch of pirates walking around and stuff, but a finished, completed Booty Bay would be fantastic. Next up, I think a 1,000 Needles Shimmering Flats return to the classic version is next on my list. I would love if the 1,000 Needles was all dried out again, right? I think it'd be cool. Maybe the water being there and then going away has done something. You know, maybe it's not as dry. Maybe there's some more plant life. I don't know. I'm not a geologist, weather scientist. But I do think, the land has probably changed. Maybe there's some erosion happening. Maybe there's more like winds and twists in 1,000 Needles. But I think the actual Shimmering Flats should be created back to the way it was, and the Raceway returns. I would love if they brought back the Mirage Raceway, and it was like decked out, man. They had like actual gnome versus goblin races, the kind of like how they have like snail races and stuff now. You can go there. They're like zooming around. You would like get toys and stuff there. You could take part in races, watch the races. You could have people race against each other. That'd be so cool. Just bring back the Mirage Raceway, the Raceway, and like just make it fully functioning, like 100% Raceway with gnomes versus goblins. I think that'd be sick, and I think it'd be really fun. Next, I would go Tanaris. So Tanaris, I think, could go back to being a bit more like a full-on desert and less like it's being taken over by water. I don't know if the water would actually take over more of it over time or how this would work technically, but I like Tanaris more when it was, just more of a desert and less of like a weird flooded desert. I don't know what it is now, but I prefer the old version. And I think it'd be cool if it became like a pirate territory, right? Because there's like always these pirates all around in Tanaris. And so maybe, it's more deserty, but the pirates have kind of taken over. And maybe there's still the trolls down there with Zul'Farrak, and those trolls have started expanding as well. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of cool things you could do with Tanaris and a lot of fun storylines you could play around with, but I think and it'd be cool because like they obviously talk about pirates and stuff, right? So maybe this can lead more into a pirate themed expansion, and Tanaris becomes like the pirate hub. I don't know, but I do prefer Tanaris when it's got more desert and more pirates and more trolls. Next, I would love if the Barrens returned to more of a savanna-esque state. So more of like the, African savanna, right? Or is it savanna, whatever, it's tomato. Because questing through there in Classic WoW made me realize how much I love old Barrens and how chaotic the post-cataclysm Barrens is, right? There's like a lava crack in the middle. There's like a war going on in the south. The north is like still kind of the Barrens, but like there's like random, it's like all over the place. And so I preferred when it knew what it was. It was barren. It was dry, it was barren. There's like lions and hyenas and, plain striders and zebras walking around and raptors. And you had a little part with the pirates. and you had a little part with like the centaurs and all the stuff. And I think it'd be cool if they played more into that, right? Like maybe go full centaur, right? Or maybe go, maybe something happens with Ratchet now and it expands out where like pirates are getting closer to Ratchet. I know they're, near there. I feel like there's a lot of fun ways you could actually go back to making the barrens feel a bit more barren. Although now they have northern and southern barrens, but I mean, that shouldn't really stop anything, especially if they start combining a lot of zones. Like I thought they would when I talk about it in my Azeroth getting revamped video. Next up, I think Azshara picking a direction is what I wrote down. So obviously back in Classic WoW, it was a very kind of autumn-esque, foresty, magical type of area, right? There wasn't a lot going on. It felt unfinished because I think it was unfinished. But that actually gave it this sort of mysticism and kind of mysteriousness about it that I thought was really cool. Then we get the post-cataclysm, and it becomes very industrialized, and it kind of took away a lot of the magic and fun that I really enjoyed with Azshara. And so, I mean, as the goblins do, they're like, we're drilling for oil here, So I wanted to just pick a direction, right? Let's go back to either maybe the forests and magic and stuff have kind of overtaken the goblins and pushed them away. Maybe, there's more like Naga here. Maybe, just more elves or night elves have come back. Like, I don't know, it's just something, right? And then, or you could go the other way, right? Maybe goblins have completely destroyed this place. They've, ripped it of resources. They've chopped everything down. I feel like it's got to be one or the other, right? We can't just sit in this like weird hybrid state of like, what's going on? Like pick a direction. Maybe they finish their big raceway going around. Or you go the other way. Maybe they stop building the raceway. Something happened. It's like overgrown now. Like I think there's some really cool directions you could pick, but you got to pick one. Next, I think I would love updates to Mulgore, Feralus, and Hinterlands, but like really small updates. So you know how Arathi Highlands got its big update? I would love that style of update to Mulgore, Feralus, and Hinterlands. I would love if they just kind of modernized those zones a bit, right? Just added some new assets, maybe polished up some things here and there. But honestly, I like the zones the way they are. Obviously, I think they would add new quests and some updated stuff depending on what's going on. But I think an Arathi Highlands style update for those zones would be cool. And maybe for a lot of zones. Because, I mean, I think a lot of people bash BFA for, like, war fronts and stuff, right? But if you actually look at the new zones of, like, Darkshore and Arathi Highlands, they did really good jobs updating the zones and giving them a modern feel while keeping that classic style. And so I think that's what I'd like to see for a lot of these zones is just modernization, but keeping that classic feel. And speaking of Darkshore, I think it'd be cool if they started building Darkshore back up. Like we already now have a base for Darkshore, right? A foundation, not like a base. Maybe the Night Elves have started building back up there, right? Maybe they got the dock is back up. Maybe they got some smaller cities. Maybe they're, doing something like maybe just something where Darkshore starts feeling like the Darkshore of old, and they've, began building it back up, because that's just what happens, right? I mean, look at Booty Bay. They started building it back up. They haven't finished yet, but, if enough time goes on, things are going to return to normal or even bigger than what they were. So I think building back Darkshore would be cool. And speaking of being up there, I think Moonglade taking on a bigger druid feel would be really, really cool. Like, we have so much druid stuff and Emerald Grove and Dream and all this stuff going on. And Moonglade kind of feels like a town with a big moon lake. It doesn't really feel very druidy to me. And so I think maybe a Moonglade revamp, not a big revamp, but just making it feel more like it's a druid home. You know what I mean? I think that would be a pretty cool thing. Just, updated building. They wouldn't have to do a lot. They already have a lot of the assets. I think just adding in a lot of those assets to Moonglade would make it feel a lot better. Then moving down a little bit, going to Winterspring, I think I was trying to figure out how Winterspring would change from what it currently is. And maybe it either gets more snow. Maybe there's like a bunch of climate things going on in the ocean and Dragon Isles, all this stuff, and it makes it snow even more in Winterspring. Or maybe it goes the opposite and a lot of the hot springs start melting the snow and it gets a little more like primal looking, but it wouldn't be like full on Gorgrond or something, right? But a little more Gorgrond than it is now, like less snow, more like mountainous, and you know, a bunch of like hot springs. All I don't know, but I do think it'd be cool to, you know, have a bit of a winter spring mix up. But I actually think more snow and like a weird climate thing would be a lot of fun as well. Then we go down to Silithus. Remove the sword. just remove the sword. Everybody wants the sword gone. It's still there. It's gotta go. And then you know, Silithus can just go back to being Bugland. I don't know what they'll do with it. Maybe make it more of like an archaeology dig site location. Maybe revamped archaeology profession in Silithus, you know? Maybe just more bugs and maybe Ungoro, maybe dinosaurs start getting in. I don't know how the dinosaurs haven't gotten to Ungoro at this, or to Silithus at this point. You would think they'd just start being like, hey guys, look over here. It's like a crazy bug desert. What if we just go like walk over and start eating them? Maybe the dinosaurs of Ungoro start eating the Silithus bugs, start clashing. I don't know. Next, we got up here, which is Lordaeron. I know the Undercity went through the whole thing. It like got evacuated. It got raided, like so much stuff. And now maybe the Alliance have actually moved back up there and taken it over. And now they've restored Lordaeron. I think that'd be a lot of cool, although they'd probably have to really build it up. But I think it'd be cool to make Lordaeron, and then you'd have Stormwind down here, Lordaeron all the way up here, revamped. And then if you go to Kalimdor, maybe they can get a new capital over here, but like they don't really need it. I mean, everyone just goes to Orgrimmar, Thunderbluff, or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Or just the capital of whatever's happening. It'd just be Orgrimmar. But I do think having a Lordaeron capital would actually be pretty sick. Especially because they've always talked about it, like, oh, it's the ruins of Lordaeron, and now like below Lordaeron, the Undercity's all broken. It's like, well, how about they rebuild Lordaeron? That'd be pretty sweet, right? I don't know if they'd actually do that, but I do think it'd be cool. And then the final thing that I thought of, there's plenty more that you can do, but the final thing I would really love to see again is Stranglethorn Vale becoming more jungle and less of like cataclysmic whatever. Like, there's whirlpools and shit going on now. All right, we can stop that. And we can go back to being, you know, more of a jungle, right? I think a lot of, when people think of Stranglethorn, they think of getting lost in this jungle, being afraid of getting ganked in the jungle, right? There's all these different animals and shit going around trying to kill you. There's these trolls over here, you know, Zul'Gurub and like all this stuff. And I think getting back to that, not like specifically those things, but I think back to that jungle feel. Because right now it just feels too chaotic. They like split it up. They did the Barrens thing where they split it up. You know, there's whirlpools, there's like damage, there's like, I think the biggest thing with the world right now is there's just too much damage everywhere, right? And I think nature and, you know, the world would essentially repair that, and the people living in the world. And so I think just in the grand scheme of things, I want a lot of that cataclysmic damage repaired, and I just want to see what it would look like. But really, I want the Mirage Raceway. So that's it. Let me know in the comments section what you would love to see in a revamped Azeroth, because I would love to hear it. That's kind of my little wish list, and thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. If you missed the latest Pointless Top 10, it was Pointless Top 10 Gorillas. Speaking of Stranglethorn, go check it out right there. And yeah. Okay. So ya.